You know, one of the biggest fallacies about Goa is that it is the land of the beaches and the music and great life. That's not true because till you talk about food, you cannot talk about Goa. Any conversation on Goa cannot be complete without food, seafood. Hi, this is Chef Ranveer Brar. Welcome to India in 21 Recipes. Let's cook a Goan seafood dish, one that's really close to my heart because this is the first dish that I cooked when I worked in Goa. Alright, so we're going to make a prawn balchao, right? The recipe is pretty straightforward, pretty easy. It's a prawn pickle. Balchao is, they say, is derived from the Balchan sambal or the Balchan paste, which is a shrimp paste that is made in Indonesia. The Portuguese got this recipe. Somebody says they are the ones who took it to the colonies in Indonesia, Malaysia. Some say they bought it here in Goa and from here it spread. Whatever it is, there are three key elements to it. One is this dried shrimp, right? This is called a galmo in Goan language, G-A-L-M-O, right? You have to look for the skinniest, the thinnest shrimp. There's an even thinner version which is hair-like. It's just as thin as hair. If you get that, that is the best for this. Otherwise, this is fine as well. So you take the dried shrimp, slightly toast it, add a little bit of salt, very slowly let the water dry out. That's part one. Part two is the Goan red masala paste. Now, Goan red masala paste is the same paste that is used for the Goan rashado, sorpotel, vindaloo, or for the balchao. Now, for the masala paste, this is a very, very interesting and precise recipe. Like I said, it's the first recipe that I learned in Goa, and I learned it from the master himself, Chef Rego, god of Goan food. So here goes the masala recipe. If you see this and you're able to crack it once, then you can crack the sorpotel, the vindaloo, the rashado, and a lot of other Goan dishes that use the red masala. Half teaspoon cumin, black pepper, a teaspoon, just one clove, just one, 3 small cardamom. If you want, you can add 1 big cardamom, cinnamon. Some people add a little bit of star anise if you want, tiny bit, just this much is good enough. Ideally, you'd want to add toddy vinegar to it, but at least any fruit vinegar like a cider vinegar or even cane vinegar, anything other than plain white vinegar is good. If you're in a hurry, you could use hot water to soak these chilies. If you have the time, then leave them soaked overnight. They plump up really nicely and make a really nice and fine paste. But like I said, if you're in a rush, don't worry about it. Just use hot water. Here I'm putting apple cider vinegar, a little bit of oil, not too much, a little bit of salt to help it grind better, and my shrimp is already smelling all nice and fruity. Fantastic. The two key elements of the dish are done. This dried shrimp powder is the main flavoring, yeah? But if you don't find it, you can still cook a balchao. Will it have that X factor? It might not, but you should still cook a balchao. If you're outside of India, in a place where you can't find dried shrimp, then you could look for the sambal balchan in any Asian store. Just put I'd say, a quarter spoonful of that, and that should be good enough. So basically, both these go for grinding, right? The shrimps have to be nice and dry for them to become a fine powder, and the chilies have to be well soaked. One becomes a paste, one becomes a powder, and while we are at it, we'll also put garlic and ginger. Now let's marinate the prawns. What I have here is tiger prawns. You could get flower prawns or any local prawns that you have. Ideally, seawater prawns and not freshwater prawns. What I've done is I've peeled the tail off, kept the head on because the head has flavor, but I have made a slit to remove the vein. Salt, turmeric, and if you want you can also add a little bit of ginger garlic paste, but salt and turmeric is the most important. Ideally I would say lemon juice, but this dish gets its flavor from toddy vinegar, not lemon juice. Another important tip, whenever you peel the prawns this way, always remove the horn because it can just hurt somebody when they're eating it. So always remove the horn. So now there are no real sharp edges that can cut somebody, right? So my favorite knife to use is always the Victorinox Santoku, and the walnut wood handle in this case is just an absolute delight because it just becomes a part of you after a point in time, right? Just takes shape in your hand. Also, especially when you're chopping big onions, you need both swiftness and power, and Santoku gives that. It gives you the speed and the power to chop a big onion really fast. As you can see, we already have the powdered masala and the masala paste here with us. You have to chop it as fine as possible. This onion is the base of a balchao. In the meanwhile, unlike most other curries, balchao is a pickle, and that is why you pre-cook the prawn, because you don't want the prawn water going into the pickle and spoiling the balchao. That is why you heat some oil and keep it ready to cook the prawn. Now let's talk about how to handle good knives. When you spend your time, energy and resources on a good knife, you want to keep it well. How do you store it? Never put it in your cutlery drawer with your other knives, because all the knives are going to end up getting blunt and you're going to get your fingers cut. While cleaning your knives, it's very important not to use soap or detergent on your knives, for the simple reason that soaps and detergents sometimes tend to stay on. The best way to clean a knife is rinse it under running water, wipe it dry and put it in a good knife block, right? If you ever have a knife fall, remove your foot and do not try to catch it, right? The worst kitchen accidents have occurred when people have tried to catch falling knives. The other bit is, every time you're using a knife, use a chopping board, so the knife is always cutting away from you. If you have to cut in your hands, the blade of the knife should never face you, because if it slips, it comes in your face. Always have it facing away from your face and your body. That's it for today. So I'm turning both the gases on and I'm putting oil in both of them. One is for the onions and one is for the shrimp. Just a little bit of chopped garlic. Optional, but adds a lot of flavor. Garlic, curry leaf, onion. And you have to let the onion stew slowly. It's not about caramelizing it as much as it is about stewing it slowly. Beautiful. On the other hand, here's our shrimp. Let's take out all this oil into our onions because it has a lot of flavor. All the shrimp flavor and the flavor from the shrimp head has come onto this oil. So a balchao, like I said, is a pickle, right? Which means It needs to be slightly high on oil, slightly high on vinegar, and as less as possible on water. That's why you added toddy vinegar in the paste. You're going to add a little bit of toddy vinegar later. You have cooked the shrimp separately, so all the water of the shrimp goes away, and you're using the shrimp fat as well. The classic combination to a balchao is a poi, which is a Goan whole wheat bread, leavened usually with toddy vinegar, but sometimes with yeast, and then cooked in a local Goan bakery called a poderia. Now this is the paste, the red masala paste. It goes in with the onions. The onions are adding the sweetness, the masala paste is adding the aromatic spices and the sourness from toddy vinegar. There have to be plenty of onions in a balchao. If you think you have enough onions, add a little more. That's the trick. I'm going to add a little bit of sugar. If you want, you can add palm jaggery or coconut sugar just to increase the sweetness of the onions a little bit. Salt, toddy vinegar. It has to have a slight vinegar kick, yeah? The prawns, all the juices, everything's got to go in. The galmo powder for flavor, the shrimp powder, very important. That toasted shrimp powder and the flavor it adds, that's what makes a balchao. Do not forget to add the oil, right? The whole idea of eating it with a poi is that you dunk it in that shrimp flavored oil and sort of have a little bit of the masala, a little bit of the oil, and then let the shrimp come to you. Leave it for at least a half an hour. Let the flavors mature. It will always taste better if left for at least a half an hour, ideally 3-4 hours. It's eaten warm, not hot, just like a pickle with a poi. You know, I'm already in Goa. I don't have a poi, but I have some good sourdough bread. You dig it in, let it soak all the flavor. And you give yourself a pat in the back. And you tell yourself, I tell you to cook it because you don't know what you're missing. I don't know when you're visiting Goa next, but you have a chance to visit it in your kitchen with this prawn balchao. I hope you make the most of it, and I hope you make the most of the other recipes that are there on the channel. This is Ranveer Brar signing off on India in 21 recipes. I'll see you again with some more amazing recipes in a bit.